What's the best example of the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth? When I was younger I made a name for myself by sleeping around with anyone and everyone just to get the feeling of being wanted, needed, and in that moment loved. Sad really when you thinking about it that all we want as child is basic human needs, and parent punish innocent children for their gratification, and then we have to deal with the consequences and battle with our own mind. School shooters. Everyone and their moms use those tragedies to push their agendas for gun control. Video games bad, LGBTQ bad, etc. Well, if you all didn't bully the mentally unstable kid, you wouldn't have started shooting in the first place. Teach your kids to not bully the mentally ill, and our leaders should be taking mental health more seriously. Wasn't there a person that was born of RP of a priest-type man in the majorly religious town didn't give them any love? Yeah, that person became successful, went back to their hometown and had the company they were working with close down the branch because the town was using the business for their own purposes. Or am I wrong? Probably Meghan Markle. She arrived thinking she'd be able to work her way up the pecking order of the royal family and found out real fast that that wasn't going to happen. Then when she didn't get what she wanted, she made up a bunch of bullshit and left, and has been trying unsuccessfully to burn down the royal family ever since. That fucking weasel ass motherfucker from Recess? What was his name? Randall? Man, fuck Randall. Nobody liked him because he would constantly rat them out to that ugly ass teacher and principal prick face. And he would only do that because nobody liked him, causing an infinite loop of dumbass on this rat-faced little shit. Romania Decree 770. In 1966 abortion and contraceptives were banned in Romania. This led to a huge increase in pregnancies and birth rates doubled. This also led to state-run orphanages being overcrowded and filled with tons of kids. The government was overthrown with a lot of these now grown children about 20 years later. True story. My mother's old boyfriend's son did this. He wanted to borrow his dad's car one night, but was pissed drunk. His father refused him the car. So this guy burned down a huge storage warehouse not too far from his dad's house. Truly one of the more sinister people I have encountered. Many though not all notorious serial killers had absolutely horrifying childhoods. The worst one I've read about might be little Mary Bell, who murdered 2 other children when she was 9 years old. At one point before she became a killer, her mother sold her to another woman. My husband's mom. Abusive piece of shit that no one justifies anymore, so she tried to stop us getting married, harassed me, beats on her husband, and threatens harm on a regular basis. Her thought process is I'm miserable and hate myself, so everyone else needs to feel that way too. Probably abused children who go on to abuse others are usually men who kill their whole families cause no one helps them. Not that it justifies mass murder, but there's usually massive cries for help and no one does anything and gets shocked when people act out. There's a tale of a woman who worked at a casual restaurant, like IHOP. Server, manager, district manager, VP. She was in line to be president and got rejected. Went to a competitor as president and then bought her former company. I like that story. George Soros. The evil he's done to the Western world over the past 40 years is payback for the US and Europe's indifference to the Holocaust. Dude is a lot of guilt considering he hated Nazis so he could live. Joseph Stalin. Stalin was born and raised in Georgia, and his earlier years as a socialist revolutionary was tied to Georgian nationalism separatism. He ended up in control of what had control over Georgia, the USSR. I remember reading a Redditor's post about how because his mom was a single mother the community othered him, so when he came back years later he caused the big factory in town to be shut down and the town died. Look inside virtually any juvenile detention center. Most, if not probably all, these inmates have something in their childhood that was abuse, neglect, some type of trauma, and nothing was done about it. I've seen the village that wanted to embrace me and decided I would rather burn it down than join the stupidity and insanity of it, since they refused to let me walk away from it. In shadows. Hard not to mention Trump here. He's been having a public tantrum for like 9 years now and he won't stop complaining and ruining everything he touches until he gets his way. Why do people bash deadbeat dads for not being there for their kids, but we never question if the child is bad vibes? Or if they're just unpleasant to be around? Well, I've never heard the saying, but that's literally what happens in this cinematic, and the top YouTube comment is that quote, "So, hey, that's me. If a group rejects me I feel like wiping their squad out. I don't do it. I'd have 100 bodies behind me by now, but I understand the sentiment." Maybe Jeffrey Dahmer? Wasn't his excuse for his murders that he didn't want them to leave him? That creepy remake of Please Don't Go in that show. Vladimir Putin. I feel like if I were his older brother I would have loved him and he would have turned out to be a good person. Dude just needs a hug. Clementine Ford. X200B. Has never ever been loved, hence all or kill all men and have you killed men today comments. X200B. Complete useless cunt. Marvin and Haymeyer. Also known as the man who destroyed the buildings of everyone who ruined his life with a killdozer he built himself. Fucking legend. I have no idea what this phrase means, but my daughter just left the door open even though the AC is on and it's starting to feel like this phrase. My twin brother and I were the outcasts, so when I turned 18 I went to study in Rome and my twin drowned himself, the family was destroyed. The troubled teen industry is rife with this shit. The Wiki C389 Land School. I bet Trump was not loved as a child. Just financed. X200B. That's why he developed this mental compulsion to compliment himself. Unfortunately it's human behavior, but it's like less evolved and more animalistic jealous chimpanzee behavior. You see it all the time. What is it with casual athletic clothes and being a douchebag? Do these guys like do a line of coke and do a few push-ups? Here's a story where the opposite happened, unfortunately. Bad Guys 1. 26 Daisy. Clarence Thomas. Look at the documentary Clarence and Jenny Thomas. Politics, Power in the Supreme Court on PBS. That dude that made a tank to destroy his town fits the bill. I'm not sure if he lived there his whole life though. Donald Trump. Shunned by NYC society for being a tasteless nouveau-riche bore, decided to lean into the crassness. Timothy McVeigh. Blew up an entire government, have all been avoided if someone had helped him. Any inso, ever. For that matter, a good portion of the alt-right, including Boogaloo Boys, and others.